Hey, it's been a couple weeks since I spoke to you. And when I was last speaking to you, I had done a series on how I had reached my own happiness and success in my life because people have been asking me how I do that. And so I shared a series of videos about some of the ways that I feel like I've made that possible for myself. And I hope those tips were helpful to you. If you didn't catch those, go to my Facebook fan page anytime. It's Cindy D. Whitmer and look those up. You'll see them there. And I hope they can help you along your way as well. We all are meant to be happy. We all deserve happiness and joy and success in whatever form we feel that takes, we want that to take in our lives. So today I thought I would share some information I found, I kind of stumbled upon, that was put together by Wayne Dyer, who's one of my favorite inspirational authors of all time. He's deceased now, but he has a huge body of work that's available out there. So you can find all kinds of resources of him if you would like. Anyway, what he shared that I'm going to share with you is traits of self actualizers. Now, why this is a nice direction to go from the series I did before my vacation is self-actualizers are people who reach their fullest potential in life. Okay, that's that kind of an informal definition of self-actualization. If you want to learn more about self-actualization, you can also look at the work of Abraham Maslow, because he came up with a pyramid about self-actualization, like what basic needs we need to meet to work up to being completely self-actualized. And you may be familiar with this work if you've done any studying of psychology or personal development or spiritual development at all in your lifetime. So anyway, but let's talk about traits of self-actualizers. So those who reach their fullest potential, because that, of course, if you're reaching your fullest potential, you're happy, you're successful, right? And whatever that means to you. So the first one is that he says that self-actualizers have a deep appreciation for beauty. Now, I don't think he means just like, beautiful people or whatever, but people who notice beauty, natural beauty, just delight in things that maybe lovely things in nature, or maybe something beautiful between people and interaction that is really heartwarming, things like that. But there are people who take note of some of the simple beauties of life and have real appreciation and gratitude for those things. Another thing he says is that self-actualizers feel a true sense of purpose in their life. And we've talked about that before too, that if your life doesn't feel really, really meaningful on some level, then there's something missing. And I want you to find, what are you passionate about? What do you think is one of your purposes for being here? And to start leaning into doing things that really express that purpose that you feel in your life. Another trait of self-actualizers is they have a resistance to enculturation. Excuse me. That's a big word. Enculturation. Okay? Enculturation, which is a gradual acquiescing to the norms of a culture or a group. In other words, enculturation is when you think you have to become what society expects you to become. So you're going with the flow of the mainstream. So self-actualizers have a resistance to that a little bit. Not that they're trying to be rebels necessarily or cause conflict, but they're not likely to think they have to be any certain way to be okay. So there's a self-confidence there of being their authentic selves and not just going along with the flow of the mainstream all the time if it doesn't necessarily fit. Self-actualizers also welcome the unknown. So they don't live in fear so much. They aren't afraid of what's unfamiliar and may have more of a curiosity about things that come along that are not known to them. They may even seek out new experiences and look for a unique perspective on things they were not expecting in their lives, things like that. Another trait is that they have high enthusiasm. Self-actualizers really get in there and live and enjoy life and really approach it from a place of excitement and enjoyment and again, that curiosity of, what's out there and what's going on and what are our options and what could we do now? And self-actualizers aren't going to be bored. They're not bored people. They really delight and get in there and live and experience life fully. Another trait is that self-actualizers are inner directed. They're inner directed. So in other words, they they follow their own heart. They follow their own mind. They follow their gut instinct more so. So there's a deep trust they have in their own ability to decide what direction to go or what they feel is best in their lives without always seeking, again, what the culture is saying should be done or what the people around them are telling them to do. And that kind of thing. Another thing that segues right into this is they are very independent of the good opinion of others. So that inner directedness means also that they don't go out seeking everybody else's approval or opinions to know that they're okay or what they're doing is okay or what they're deciding is an okay decision. There's a confidence, an inner confidence that they can figure out what is important or what is best right now, and so that's a real sign of self-actualization and emotional maturity, making their own decisions without a lot of input or feedback from others or a lot of swaying of their. It doesn't necessarily mean they're stubborn and that they won't consider other people's thoughts on things, because self-actualizers, again, they're curious, they're open-minded, they're soaking it all in, what's around them, but they're inner directed. They're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to follow their own heart and instincts about what needs to be done or what their next step is, and not weigh as heavily on what others' opinions are. And then another trait of self-actualizers around all this is that they have very little attachment to outcomes. So they may, develop goals, they may have a vision for their life or whatever, they may have an idea of where they're headed, for example, that feels like it fits really well with them, but they're sort of detached to how things turn out. And what Wayne Dyer means by this is that it doesn't have to be exactly a certain way for it to be okay with a self-actualized person. Self-actualized people are relaxed enough to know that life happens, and that if something doesn't turn out as they had planned, that they have a trust that things are always still working out for them in the best way. And so they're a little detached from what, at the end of the day, things look like, even though they may have been very goal-oriented, been very intentional in their direction, but there's sort of a laid-back, healthy balance there in terms of how things turn out. And then, above all, they do not have a need to exert control over other people. Now, let's face it, we can't control other people anyway. I mean, who are we kidding? But self-actualizers don't even have the need to do it. They don't They really trust that individuals need to do what they need to do, just like they know that they need to do what they need to do. And so they let others live their lives and be themselves and not attempt to bestow their way on other people. Now, there's a difference between teaching or sharing information that we know versus trying to control people. For example, I feel like I'm a pretty self-actualized person in a lot of ways. These traits I'm sharing with you today really resonate with me. Not that I'm perfect at them all the time, but they really do resonate with me. And yet I spend my life coaching and counseling people and trying to help them live their lives in a way that will work better for them. But it doesn't mean that I feel like I need to control your lives. I'm not trying to exert control over your lives. I'm trying to hand you information, tools, tips, and techniques that have worked well for me and that I've seen help people shift in ways that lead them to where they really want to go. So there is a difference there. So let me tell you a little story about a self-actualized person. Okay, so there was a professor who taught about self-actualization to his class for many weeks, and taught about all these traits and really helped his college class, get to know all about self-actualization. So it came time for the final exam. And the final exam, there was only 30 minutes for the students to write out their answer to this final exam question. And here's how the professor set it up. The professor said, a self-actualized person got invited to a party and wore jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers to this party. So very casually dressed, right? The self-actualized person was very, very casually dressed, showed up at the party, and the party was actually very formal. Everyone else in the room was dressed to the nines, formal attire, suits, tuxedos, dresses, high heels, fancy jewelry. Everybody else in the self-actualized person was in jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers. And so the question on the exam was, write out what was the self-actualized person's reaction to this scenario. So the students had 30 minutes, many of them writing frantically all 30 minutes, and at the end shared some of their answers, which were the self-actualized person, stayed at the party and didn't let it bother them that they were dressed informally and the whole rest of the group was dressed formally. They were comfortable with themselves just as they were, just things like that, which is, makes sense. But the professor said that you all got this wrong. This answer is 3 words. 3 words. It should have taken you 30 seconds to answer this question. And you didn't need 30 minutes at all. And the class was like, what? And he said, he, meaning the self-actualized person, didn't notice. He didn't notice. So, in other words, if someone is truly and fully, completely self-actualized, they are so comfortable with themselves and so in touch with the essence of who they are and the essence of who everybody else is, they don't even notice the shell on the outside, the specifics of the shell on the outside, but instead get right to the core and see people for the soul that they are, for their essence on the inside, and nothing else even matters. So, wow, I love that story. So trust me, if you can adopt some of these traits of self-actualized people, the more of them that you can adopt for yourself or kind of nurture within yourself, the happier, healthier, and more successful you are going to be. So awesome talking with you today. Good luck with that, and I will talk to you again soon.